Harry S. Truman, the 33rd President of the United States, born and raised in Lamar, Missouri in 1884, and died late December of 1972. After FDR's death, Truman ascended to the position of president from being the vice president of none other than Franklin Delano Roosevelt, which began Truman's four-year term. Once 1948 hit and the next presidential election was to occur, not everything went as planned for the Democratic Party, which therefore allows us all to ask, what were the issues that led to Truman winning the presidential election over Thomas Dewey in 1948?
This was a time of instability within the Democratic Party, resulting in there being a left wing and a right wing. This led to there being more representatives from the Democratic Party, however, with different viewpoints. Those representatives were Harry S. Truman of the Democrats, J. Storm Thurmond, a states' rights Democrat, and Henry Wallace of the Progressive Party, which is a left-wing split of the Democrats.
In order to understand what caused the issues for this election, it's important to understand what each candidate supported and what they were against. An idea that Truman supported was the Marshall Plan, which provided aid from the United States to the economies of Western Europe that were damaged from World War II. On the other hand, he was strongly against Soviet expansion, yet he wasn't afraid of the Communist Scare, which was the potential expansion and spread of communism to other nations. However, Henry Wallace had a different viewpoint on Soviet expansion, whereas he was completely against Truman's ideas, which led to disagreements between both himself and Truman, resulting in Wallace being fired from his position in 1947. After being fired, Wallace began his presidential campaign in the Progressive Party with an attempt to shift the views of Truman's liberal supporters and make Truman lose votes. This was successful to a significant extent, however, not game-losing for Truman, because roughly 1.15 million people voted for Wallace, which could have actually gone to Truman himself. However, Wallace received 0 electoral votes.
The election of 1948 had issues that led to distrust between party members. This eventually led to losses of votes due to brilliant moves and mistakes made by all candidates, which made this a complicated mess. This was important because all the moves that were made contributed in making the final result of the election. Harry Truman was a member of the Democratic Party, while Dewey opposed him as a Republican. Ironically, Dewey was not much of a conservative. Truman and Dewey supported similar ideas such as the Marshall Plan and the Truman Doctrine. Furthermore, the Democrats had won the election for the past few years, which was a cautious campaign for Dewey to take. In 1944, Dewey ran against Franklin Delano Roosevelt and lost because of a verbal match that cost him a tremendous amount of votes, therefore putting Dewey at a bad reputation for the elections.
Despite having a bad reputation, Dewey was expected to win the election due to the conflicts with the Democratic Party. The Chicago Daily Tribune strongly believed that Dewey would win and printed their daily paper before the end result of the election. Little did they know, Truman actually pulled the win. The results of the election were Harry Truman, with 303 electoral votes and 24,105,695 popular votes. Thomas E. Dewey, with 189 electoral votes and 21,969,170 popular votes. J. Strom Thurmond, with 39 electoral votes and 1,169,021 popular votes. Lastly, Henry Wallace, with 0 electoral votes and 1,157,328 popular votes, overall resulting in a victory for Truman as he was the first to reach 270 electoral votes.
Other political issues that led to Truman winning the presidential election in 1948 were the Dixiecrats. Dixiecrats were Southern Democrats that split from the party having the option to extend the civil rights. Senator Storm Thurmond leading the South opposed Truman and the Democratic platform. People still liked Truman because of his plans of wanting to improve the United States. This was important because Truman used this as propaganda because everyone was wanting improvement, which helped Truman gather all the undecided voters to support Truman.
Overall, the election of 1948 was a success for Harry S. Truman, even with the issues that had occurred. Political viewpoints within the Democratic Party heavily influenced the reputations of the three Democratic-sided candidates, thus having Truman's reputation be the strongest. Having known that Wallace was fired in 1947 impacted his chances of winning the election and swaying many people's views to the side of Truman. Dewey also contributed towards the issues of the election by not being considered as much of a conservative as the typical Republican, therefore providing the Republican Party with a member that didn't exactly meet their standards, causing votes for Dewey to be lost to Truman. As a result of the election, Harry Truman was indeed successful by being the first to receive 270 electoral votes and crush Dewey by 114 votes.